So in here, we're going to add a sphere with polygons. We'll go into our sphere and we'll choose the polygon, not the polygon mesh. And turn the frequency all the way up. Here we'll add our mountain attribute. Turn on our view. Change our element size. And then we're going to add our transform down here. So within the transform, we can add our noise to any number of these XYZ properties. This is movement, this is rotation. We could even do scale. I haven't tried that yet, but we can. So if we right click inside any one of these, so here's our X, Y, and Z. So in our X, we can go to motion effects noise. And you'll notice it creates this little motion effects separate node. And in here, if we hit play, we zoom out, we can begin to control the period. If you stretch the period, you can really slow this thing down. And it's moving on the x-axis. Here we can smooth it even more, the roughness. The amplitude. So I'm just going to make it barely move, right, on its x-axis. If we want to see its constraints, we have to pause it. And we could change, where it begins and where it ends. And then we hit play again. But maybe it makes sense to, whatever they are, have them be the same. Oops. So its starting and ending point are the same, and we get a nice loop. So if we wanted to then play with the Y or Z, we go back to our sphere right here, right? And we would go back into our transform. So you can see we adjusted the X and with this little gold tag. So if we wanted to do the same thing to the Y, we could right click inside here, motion effects noise. Same thing, right? How do I calm this thing down? Well, not like that. I'll stretch the period out. Make it less rough. it doesn't look like a perfect loop anymore. So let's look at its start and end values. We have to pause it to see. It says 0 and 0. So there's the 1. I mean, I guess it is. It just has a little weird bounce at the beginning, a little double bounce. The same thing applies when I go back into transform to rotation. So I can apply the XYZ the same way like you saw, or I can apply it here, which will affect the X, Y, and Z, right? So if I go into motion effects, go into noise, now I'm affecting its rotation, right? You can smooth it out. I can kind of give it slightly less predictable movement. And if I play with the amplitude, I can get the desired increased roll in the rotation. So like, let's say 100. Okay. So if I want to then, make this even more visually interesting, I could go into the mountain node itself and I can just turn on animation. I'm going to say for me, I'm going to keep, let's say the amplitude's at 70. Whoa. 0.70. And the element size is maybe like 0.60. Those are good numbers. And so I suppose I can do the same thing to scale, which I've not tried. So let's try it, right? I'm back in the transform section. And if I right click scale, motion effects noise, it gives me craziness. I can stretch out the period, back out a little bit. I can make it less rough.